Every year, millions of us go for our routine health checkups, thinking we're doing the absolute best thing for our health. But what if I told you that some of the most common tests for people over 70 could actually be doing more harm than good? It's a really surprising idea, and it's completely changing how experts are starting to think about healthcare for seniors. It sounds a little crazy to ask, right? Could my checkup be dangerous? But it's a question we absolutely have to start asking because the science is now showing that for folks over 70, that old more testing is always better idea can seriously backfire, creating a whole cascade of problems that weren't even there in the first place. In fact, get this, recent studies are showing that for a huge number of seniors, we're talking as many as 37%, some of these routine tests can lead straight to treatments you don't need. Really serious complications, or even side effects that last a lifetime. That's more than 1 out of every 3 tests. And here's the part that really gets me. Almost nobody knows about this. We're talking 99% of people over 70 who just haven't been told that the risks and benefits of these tests totally change as you get older. This is a huge, quiet problem that's happening in doctors' offices every single day. Okay, so let's break all of this down. First, we're going to dig into this idea of the over-testing epidemic. Then, we'll count down the 5 most common checkups that actually carry these hidden risks. And you'll want to stick around for the end, because we're going to talk about how you can take back control of these decisions. So, the core idea here is pretty simple. Modern medicine? It's incredible, no doubt, but it's not perfect. And for seniors, that delicate balance between a test helping you and a test harming you can shift a lot. A test that could save a 50-year-old's life might be life-altering for a 75-year-old, and not in a good way. All right, let's kick off our countdown with 2 scans that I'm sure you've heard of. On the surface, they seem totally harmless, but more often than not, they wind up creating a ton of anxiety and pushing people towards treatments they just might not need. Coming in at number 5 is the bone density scan, or what they call a DEXA scan. It's a super quick, painless test, and it seems like a complete no-brainer for checking on your bone health and the risk of fractures as you age. But here's the catch. Yeah, the test finds bone loss, but, some bone loss is a totally normal part of getting older. It's kind of like getting wrinkles. The problem is that normal finding can trigger a prescription for powerful drugs that have been linked to some really severe side effects, including a rare but serious condition that can literally crumble your jawbone. I mean, just listen to what happened to Rose, a 76-year-old retired piano teacher. She'd never fallen, felt totally fine, but a routine scan showed some mild bone loss. Her doctor put her on meds, and within months, she was in so much pain from jaw problems and acid reflux that she couldn't even enjoy playing the piano anymore. The treatment became way worse than the condition it was supposed to prevent. So what's a better way to handle this? Well, it's all about prevention. We're talking strength and balance exercises, getting enough vitamin D, a calcium-rich diet, things that are proven to reduce your fracture risk by over 20%. That's a huge impact, way more than those drugs often have, and it comes with 0 dangerous side effects. All right, at number 4, we've got the brain MRI for memory loss. You know the feeling, you start forgetting names, misplacing your keys, and the immediate fear is dementia. So it's really common for a doctor to order an MRI to just take a look inside the brain. But here is the big problem. These scans almost always find something. Things like white matter spots or a little bit of shrinkage. These are perfectly normal changes as we age. And yet, one study found that while 86% of scans showed some kind of abnormality, a staggering 97% of those findings had nothing to do with a treatable condition. It just causes panic. Think about George, a 74-year-old retired engineer. He had an MRI for some mild forgetfulness, and it showed those common white matter changes. He absolutely spiraled. He convinced himself he had dementia, stopped driving, and cut himself off from his friends. But his actual cognitive tests, they were perfectly normal. The scan result, which was just a sign of normal aging, completely destroyed his quality of life for no reason at all. And this is so, so important. Unless there are really severe symptoms like seizures or a sudden drastic personality change. An MRI probably shouldn't be the first stop. A simple, paper-based cognitive test is a much better way to see what's going on, and it avoids all that unnecessary fear from a scan that just shows you're getting older. All right, moving on to number 3. This is one of the most common tests out there, and it's notorious for sending people down a complete rabbit hole of risky and, frankly, unnecessary procedures. Number 3 is the cardiac stress test. So if an older person says they're feeling a bit tired or have some mild chest tightness, this is often the go-to test. The whole point is to put the heart under a little stress and see if there are any blocked arteries. And this is the real kicker. For adults over 70, the false positive rate on these tests can be as high as 40%. Think about that. Nearly half the time, the test is wrong, flagging a problem that isn't even there. And that false alarm can trigger a whole chain of invasive follow-ups, like angiograms and even stents that were never needed. This is exactly what happened to a guy named Raymond, a 75-year-old retired postman. He just mentioned feeling a little tired on walks. One stress test led to another procedure. They put a stent in, and he had a bad reaction to the dye that messed up his kidneys and landed him in the hospital for 6 days. And his fatigue? It never changed. It wasn't a heart problem at all. He was just dehydrated. Okay, now we're at the top of the list, the big 2. We're going to start with a screening that's been called a lifesaver for decades. But for people over 75, the risks suddenly start to look a lot bigger than the benefits. All right, number 2, and I know this one is going to shock a lot of you. It's the colonoscopy. We've all been told how critical this is, and it is for younger people. But the whole equation changes dramatically after age 75. Check out these numbers from a major study. For every 1,000 colonoscopies done on people over 75, only about 2 lives were actually saved from cancer. But over 20 people suffered serious complications like major bleeding or perforated bowel. That's a 10-to-1 ratio of risk versus benefit. I mean, that's just staggering. Your chance of being harmed by the test is 10 times higher than your chance of being saved by it. And this isn't just stats. Dana, a 73-year-old grandmother, she lived this nightmare. No symptoms, no family history, but her doctor really pushed for the screening. They removed a tiny polyp, but the procedure tore her bowel. She was in the hospital for 9 days and says she's never been the same since, all from a screening she probably didn't need. And that brings us to number 1. It's marketed as this amazing futuristic health tool, but the irony here is just terrifying. Get ready for this. Which test is actually responsible for causing as many as 5% of all cancers in the United States? The answer, the number 1 most dangerous checkup, is the annual full-body CT scan. These are the scans you see advertised in those executive health packages, promising to catch everything early. But what they don't tell you is that each scan blasts your body with a massive dose of radiation. We're talking the equivalent of 500 chest x-rays all at once. And let me be crystal clear about this, because every major medical organization agrees. There is zero, and I mean zero, scientific evidence that these scans save lives in people who don't have any symptoms. But there is a ton of evidence that they cause harm, both from the radiation itself and from the cascade of dangerous follow-up procedures for things that are completely harmless. Just listen to what happened to Marcus, an active 80-year-old who felt great. He paid for one of these elite checkups. The scan found a tiny little nodule in his lung. Well, the biopsy they did to check it collapsed his lung, and he spent 2 months recovering. He was seriously, seriously harmed, all from investigating something that was never even a threat to begin with. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in, and it sounds pretty scary. But the point of all of this isn't to make you afraid of doctors or tests. The goal is to empower you, to help you become an active, informed partner in your own healthcare. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that you can take control. Before you agree to any test, especially after 70, it really just comes down to asking 3 simple, powerful questions. Number 1, why this specific test for me at this point in my life? 2, what's our plan if we actually find something? What are the next steps? And 3, are there any safer, less invasive options we could try first? So, in the end, it really boils down to this one question. You want to be proactive about your health, of course, but you have to ask yourself, is this next test truly a safety net, or could it be a trap that leads to more harm than good? The power is in your hands. Choose wisely.
Yes, we've reached the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share your thought in the comments. Your feedback is very valuable to us. Take care of yourself and stay healthy.